Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of boards, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Thursday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only livestream Crafting Icewind, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Rime of the Frostmaiden. If you are playing characters of Robin, Frey, Celeste, Edmund, or Thimbleweed, this is not the stream for you, but for the rest of you, welcome. Assuming you enjoy the spoilers. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can watch all of these sessions and reviews here on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Rogue Watson and join our official Discord server with the invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20. For streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. We are still talking about the Caves of Hunger, as my players have made it a couple rooms inside. We made some good progress on Monday's stream in terms of trying to break down the next rooms that they will be on their approach vector. This is, I do love open floor plan dungeons because it grants the players a lot of choice and freedom, and it really feels like they are making a lot of important decisions versus just going room to room. That's something I always look at and critique whenever I'm looking at other dungeons that other folks have designed, and this one does. This one checks that box very well. There are so many different paths that the players can take thanks to this tunnel system right in the middle. The other interesting part of this dungeon is that the goal is just to get through it. There is no boss at the end. There is no treasure they're trying to recover or person they're trying to save. It's just, this is in between their next destination. Now, they don't know where their destination is. They come in here completely blind. They may think that Ethrin is in this map somewhere, which I'm not necessarily going to discourage them of that fact. But at least right now, we know they're going to go to H5 next. We do have the Ice Piercer encounter planned for that, and then I think I am going to unleash Tekalele, who I've been working on trying to fix his stat block because it's a problem. It's a problem. I don't, even for level 8 players like this, the action economy just kills you. And I can see why he's only supposed to attack around other fights, because that's the only time he can really make a difference and actually be kind of threatening. I boosted his stats up to be to that of a normal vampire. I think he's actually even better than a normal vampire because I left all of his null abilities and stats in there, but gave him all the better abilities of a straight up vampire, like legendary resistance. He's got that. I also gave him legendary actions, and here's where I'm trying to fix his stat block, because I think legendary actions is the best way to make a boss monster not suck in D&D 5e, and at least right now, the ones, the idea is he's got 3 legendary actions. I gave him just basically a move, attack, and the shape change actions that he can take. So move, he can move up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. That's pretty huge. I also gave him a straight up climb speed. Vampires do have like a spider climbing trait. But I just gave him a straight up climb speed, and I guess I could include the fact that I'm picturing like a xenomorph where he can just like literally skitter on walls and creepy shit like that. So, and the walls are 30 feet high, and it should be nice prime ambush opportunities for that. As a vampire, also, he can go into mist form, although he can't be in direct sunlight. This is going to be a problem, is if I ambush the players and then Thimbleweed immediately turns on his daylight spell, which, I mean, it's a problem for me as a DM, but it also kind of rewards the player for having taken that spell like forever ago as just a good idea and has never really used it in any effective context. And like, so it, on the other hand, it's kind of nice for that player to finally show off taking that spell. Whoops, I didn't mean to actually click that. Let's hide that. To hide this one as well. Actually clicking things, I'm realizing. Okay, thankfully Roll20 had the ability to hide things, so I don't have to just like delete the chat log. So the mist, the shape changer form means in this case it can turn into a large hyena or mist. The hyena has its exact same stats, except it can't speak, and I guess it becomes a large size, and its walking speed is increased to 50 feet. However, I don't think it can use its claws, so it's weaker offensively also. So it's only there for speed, and I don't think it's going to need speed in any of these encounters. I don't ever see it actually transforming into a hyena. However, transforming into mist is very important because mist is immune to all non-magical damage. Now, it says non-magical damage. That's kind of tricky because does that mean magical weapons still damage it? I would rule that like no, literally magic's maybe AoE spells could still damage it or something to that effect, but it does still take damage from sunlight also, which is interesting. It also technically only has a flying speed of 20 feet. I may have to amend that and let it move a little bit faster. Basically, I'm trying to create a scary monster that can ambush the players like a horror movie. But the problem is the base stat block doesn't really allow for that, and especially becomes more problematic when the players are level 12. This was supposed to be an ambush predator for level 8 players, and even then, as written, it said whenever it took 20 hit points worth of damage, it would immediately basically turn into mist form and run away. Well, it's going to take 20 damage from like one attack from one player, so that's a really dumb stat in general. So I'm going to have to use a lot of like DM cheating features, which is basically almost turning some of its fights into a cutscene versus an actual standard combat encounter, at least during the very first one. I think I'm going to try to get away with that. Try to use its frightful cackle, although not really its technical frightful cackle, but really use its, just play it up as an RP thing, I guess. In terms of hearing that. That was a suggestion, I believe, from Jason from the chat on Monday. I really like that idea. But I do want to try to actually launch a little bit of an attack in H5 if I can, but the only way to do that, it's way too early to actually show him. But what I'd like to do is have him, while the players are basically trying to escape or taking damage from those ice piercers, which are like these monstrous just icicles that are dropping down and hitting them. One person is going to get attacked by the vampire, who basically comes out of, nowhere, whatever you want to flavor that as being, and tries to use its bite attack on them, which I will legit roll for that, although I may actually keep that hidden as well. I'm really, playing in Roll20 means all of our rolls are public, so I know that hiding rolls does not go over very well with my players, but there is precedence for that. I know Chris did it a few times in his campaigns where he would like physically roll a dice instead of even putting it on the GM, whisper to the GM. So I may hide everything. What I can do, however, and I'll show you real quick, is I can hide, if I click this, I can actually hide the creature, I can hide the name, and I can hide the description so that it just looks like this when I do it, which just, for those of you listening, it's just the name of the attack, which says bite. It's got the attack, the number, so it does reveal the modifier, and then the damage, which does reveal that, which that would be something the players have to know anyway. However, it doesn't tell them the fact that the necrotic damage, actually reduces their max hit point by that amount, and then the vampire would gain that amount. It's got a +9, so I'm pretty confident it's going to hit, but that's not a for sure, so it could always try to, they could be more flavorful where it tries to like hit somebody, and it doesn't, they feel something trying to attack them on their mouth, but they don't realize what it is. And then basically would immediately go into like mist form after it sees the piercers have, dropped and are basically done, and escapes after that. And I'm hoping I can get away with that without it, and really making it almost part of the piercer moment versus turning this into like, okay, now everybody roll for initiative and try to figure out what's going on. And maybe it literally turning like a fleeting glance that you see like this monstrous creature like clamp down on your mouth, and then it just like poofs away into like black mist that you lose sight of or something. I'm hoping I can get away with that. Obviously they'll try to track it down, but that would be part of the creepiness, is maybe they hear like this, crackling, piercing. And the cool thing is the mist, this is a good opportunity for the mist attack because, and it does mention this in the book, this tower, which I'm going to borrow one of the players, let's remember phrase right here. The way I did this tower on the map is you can actually kind of see little flittering bits through it. So I put cracks in the dynamic lighting so players can tell that you can kind of see through the ruins, which is a neat little effect in Roll20. So you can use things like Misty Step or Gaseous Form, I don't know, whatever tools the other players have to actually get in that tower. And what they don't realize is you can actually get through the tower by going all the way around through H10 through H7, and then it's the same thing. It's still a closed tower all the way around, which is neat. The only way inside is to use one of those kind of abilities to get in. But that helps the vampire be able to ambush them and then mist in here, and then it can like mist again and basically just retreat all the way. So you don't have to be too cheater about the fact that it can spawn, anywhere and attack them. Instead, I'll be mindful of the different areas that it can actually attack. It takes damage from magical weapons. Well, it might not be able to this time. I mean, yeah. Otherwise, the mist form is just kind of useless, I guess. I don't know. I need better vampires. Better vampires. Like mist surrounds the vampire at all times, or some layer action that fills the room with mist. Yeah, that could be good. Makes it kind of it's almost like a forewarning for when the creature is going to attack. You hear like cackling and howling too. What I also did with its stat block, so we'll go back to its legendary action. So it can move up to its speed without provoking opportunity attack. So literally that would be part of its. So essentially it's using its attack action, and then on a legendary action, which is supposed to be after another creature's turn. So I'm kind of cheating because I guess I would use it immediately after, but we're not really in combat either. So it's going to be kind of, again, trying to get this off via kind of another event instead of combat. It can move to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. It can use any of its actions except multi-attacks. That includes any one of its bite, claws, frightful cackle, or sickening gaze. I turned those all into legendary actions. And it can just use its shape changer ability as a legendary action, which is the important thing. So, you know, it can ambush them at first, do its attack, and then essentially it can shape change into its form and then try and dissipate away. So you'll have to do shape change plus move. I don't know. I'm using multiple things together. I'm really cheating here as a DM. I realize that, but there's just no good way to do this legitimately without giving it all kinds of special features. But I think that's kind of the prerogative. And I mean, at level 12, you got to start doing that. So I like the idea of maybe some layer actions, maybe even like magical darkness fills the room. That could be pretty effective. Darkness just protrudes whenever this creature attacks, and then if it's magic darkness, I think the only thing that can solve that is magic light, which again the daylight spell would be appropriate for. So depending on what the players will, I may have it stick around for a hot second, but I'm going to try to just have it be a really creepy, scary, like during this moment when the ice piercers are coming down attacking somebody, maybe the person who doesn't get attacked, you know, I'm going to try to like randomly select who's going to get attacked by the piercers via my token fate thing, and if somebody probably gets attacked the least amount of times, that's the person who's going to get, or somebody maybe is just off separate or something, that person would get attacked by the vampire, the Noel vampire, and then it would try to just play out like a little cutscene, and the only thing I'm going to do is just try to get the bite attack off, and then teleport away. So it's gonna be a one thing, and then it's gonna be gone. And I want the thing to be like, what the fuck was that? Like, and maybe get an idea that somebody with a perception or something could maybe see the mist like dissipate into this tower, and then that could lead them to investigating that, and then that could be a whole thing. But there will basically be no chance for them to catch this thing. I'm gonna really try to treat it like a cutscene moment. Don't bring monsters of must as a DM because of different abilities and such. Yeah. And I'm starting to, you know, I haven't felt the need to do that in the first 2 tiers of play. And plus, with this, we're so late in 5e's life cycle, and there's so many awesome, you know, third-party and second-party resources that you can use, where I almost don't really have to come up with a whole lot of creatures myself until we started reaching tier 3. And then I've really had to make like bespoke creatures for certain encounters that had a lot of different effects and abilities, mainly with boss monsters, because they just do not hold a candle to even a partially rested like full party. Even bosses who have minions around them, like they still need extra, you know, at very least legendary actions, maybe some layer actions, you know, bonus actions, reactions, all these things in order to fix the action economy, because no single boss is just going to stand up to that many more player characters. And plus, I've got, you know, a full party of 5. They've got various summons. They've got an NPC ally, which is the wizard Valen, who actually summoned a skeleton. I need to put that on the map, don't I? He did animate dead as a necromancer. Do we have normal skeletons in here? Possibly not. There's not a single actual straight up skeleton in this campaign. That's fascinating. Huh. Not a very undead. Alright, we'll grab from the compendium then. Which is good. I mean, we had a lot of undead. I guess we had frost giant skeletons. That was the big thing. I think it's just a normal ass skeleton, right? That animate dead creates. Skeleton. And technically, she could animate more. Doesn't require concentration or anything, but she only has so many spell slots, so. make sure you're not going to. Okay, excellent. Defaults are set up correctly. There we go. We'll roll. Hit points. Remember what animate dead does. I think you either get a zombie or a skeleton depending on what the body is. This was definitely a skeletal body. Animate dead. Pile of bones or corpse medium small humanoid. Just use target with a pulse. Target was a skeleton if you choose bones, or zombie if you choose a corpse. Use a bonus action to command the creature. Or creatures. The creature is under your control for 24 hours, which stops obeying any command you're given to it. To maintain control of the creature in another 24 hours, you must cast the spell on the creature again. Okay. Fun stuff. Higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell fourth, enemies are on 2 additional undead creatures. Oh yeah, so I guess you could have used a higher level spell. It's too bad that doesn't scale with better creatures, though. Maybe there's another undead spell that does it. I used a mimic that could change its form to a spider. That's pretty cool. I think they added some different variant mimics at one point, or am I making that up? So that's going to be the first, again, technically not a combat encounter. We just had a traditional combat encounter with the flame skulls, but I'm going to turn this more into a hazard, terror, horror moment, which the players could very well investigate. H6 has some minor loot in it if they get in there. Actually, H6, I forgot. I wrote down... which is the inside of the tower. They can actually make an Arcana check because there's these cool like shifting patterns on the walls that look magical. And if they succeed, they'll realize that this is a tower of like respite or something. And any character who takes a short rest in the tower regains a spell slot of 3rd level or lower at the end of that rest. You can only benefit for once for 24 hours. Still a pretty cool effect though, and definitely meant for a really good resting opportunity because you're very protected, although we've established that the vampire can make it in and out of there without much issue. It might try to ambush the players who are resting in there. But still, at least try to ambush them and do the same thing where it's not really a traditional fight, but comes in and, you know, grabs somebody and bites them and then leaves. Although I think its reduction... Does it last? I think it might last until a long rest. So the target finishes a long rest, yeah. So that's kind of a cool, like, you know, over time, it's a war of attrition. If it keeps getting that bite off and keeps reducing their max hit points. Kind of a pain in the ass for the players to deal with. But I like the idea of the room like filling with a dark mist. And flavoring that as almost like magical darkness where nobody can see anything. That could be cool. And then we've got, so H10 is the next logical place. I mean, technically they could Misty Step through to H7, but it all connects. And then that's where they have to make the big choice. There is going to be where there's a tunnel that goes all the way down about 150 feet. Down into the big Remoraz cave, which is considered one of the mini bosses of this dungeon. Although, given the players already fought Remoraz as a boss, I turned one of the young ones into an adult. So instead of 1 adult and 3 youngins, it's 2 adults and 2 youngins. This place is pretty well telegraphed. There's giant bubbling pools everywhere, which the player should know what that means. And then there's bones strewn, large cavern, danger written all over it. Yes, technically somebody could fall down the chute and end up falling into the water, but the odds of that happening are very minor because the players all have very good traversal abilities, so I don't see them actually sliding down there like jackasses, but they might surprise me with that. There is some treasure in the tower, some potions they can grab. There's also, it says the cave might contain a psychic haunting. I will definitely take advantage of that. Probably while they're crawling around the tower trying to explore it, I'll do one of the psychic hauntings, and with my hauntings, I'm going to have everybody make a wisdom save, or they suffer a form of madness that is kind of a unique combination, which I showed this on Monday, of the short-term and long-term madness that lasts for 1 hour. And that's another like war of attrition thing. So I really want to play up the fact that, you know, this is a dangerous area. There's not a lot of treasure here. You're just trying to survive and get through it. Although I guess there is some treasure you can find. So I think it's a D8 table with various debuffs that affect you for an hour. And yes, technically they could short rest right after, but I think I mentioned this on Monday, where my players are generally good about not abusing that feature not abusing the resting, even short resting features too much. If one of your party members gets attack off, they can still Misty Step away and heal whatever damage they take. Yeah, for sure. Technically it doesn't have Misty Step, but I could flavor it as Misty Step. I think that would be probably better. Give them like just unlimited Misty Steps or something. versus that turning into, because again, that mist form is, it turns, you become 20, you can have flying speed of 20 feet and you're immune to all non-magical damage, but the players all basically have magic damage, so it's going to be, yeah, Misty Step is probably going to be the thing I'll actually flavor it as. Maybe Misty Step where you can kind of see where he's going, though. But that'll be a big choice. They'll either go drop down. I could see them scouting it for sure, realizing what's down here, seeing everything, and then being like, all right, well, maybe not. And then there's also a tunnel that goes down to the Underdark. I am going to flavor it, so it does mention that the drow down here in the outpost came up from the Underdark, obviously, so I'm going to include notes about like climbing equipment the players would find. It's weird that there's nothing here. And I was going to strew some bodies around, but it looks like the map already does have some hilarious looking like dog bone, like classic like bone looking bones on this map, so I'll flavor that as being basically the drow that already tried to make it through the cave, and basically just lost a bunch of drow trying to get through these memorizes. And that's kind of been their problem, is they need to resupply, but they're realizing that the maybe this is the only party that made it through. And yes, I will be like probably tripling the number of drow here and upping there, and expanding their stat blocks and everything, and making them a little better. Steal away for sure. Have you thought of making the vampire attacks skill saves instead of attack rolls for the cutscene attacks? I think I'll keep it an attack roll, especially because they will be making saves. No, they won't be making saves, won't they? From the piercers. That's true. That's actually attack rolls. Unfortunately, that goes beyond what its stat block is. It doesn't usually trigger unless I use its frightful cackle, but I don't think I want to actually use its frightful cackle unless they're in a full combat fight, because they can become immune to it. Sickening Gaze would be a great one to start throwing at them, though. But they have to see it. The vampire targets one humanoid it can see within 30 feet of it. If the target can see the vampire, so if anybody sees, so I'd have to kind of reveal what it is, then they have to make a DC 15 con save or be poisoned for 24 hours. But that's a big debuff. But otherwise, yeah, it's all actually attack rolls. In fact, that, yeah, the piercers all attack. Male. The piercers attack via attack rolls, and then its might attack would be an attack roll, so that would be a little bit passive for the players to deal with. I could turn the piercers into a save versus attack rolls. Would that be more interesting? I could leave the damage the same, which is 3d6 piercing plus 3d6 cold, which is pretty big damage. And instead of using these +5s, I let the players roll. Kind of changes how these work, but I could make it the bad thing is you make it a deck save that makes Celeste able to use her evasion, though. But that is a good point, that it's a little bit more passive with the players. There is a drow vampire spawn. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. Right now it's mostly kobold spawns, which are a little bit weaker, I think, than a typical. Vampire spawns are pretty strong, aren't they? I have to check that stat block again, but I feel like they're like CR5 or something. I was looking at the vampire spellcaster stat block that had things like dominate person, and greater invisibility would be like the biggest one to do and really turn into a predator. But then I looked at the null vampire stat, and it really doesn't fit with him having a proper spellcasting stat block, because he's got really, really bad mental stats, so it just wouldn't really fit very well. Let's see. Yeah, vampire spawn is CR5. With 80 hit points, my goodness. You have 15. Yeah, spider climb. Being upside down, it seems like I need to make an ability check. I don't know what the difference. What is the difference between spider climb and climbing speed of 30? I guess spider climb is actually better. They can climb upside down on ceilings. I guess that's what I meant to give the null vampires, spider climb. They actually do have the same attacks. I guess they're just weaker versions. Whereas the kobold vampire spawn, I think, is significantly weaker stat block wise, but I think they have pack tactics. No vampires. That would be too much, I think. I mean, I generally like glass cannon minions. That's more appropriate. Weirdly, we get one little tease of a minion early on in H4 where it is also, I'm also going to turn that into more of a cutscene thing where it essentially I'm not even going to put it on the map. They just see this terrifying creature and it flees, and maybe they'll think that's what attacks them in H5, or it'll be awkward if they go to H5 first and then see this creature here, and then it'll flee in some other direction, I guess. But they don't have the poofing ability. They just scamper. But I don't know where actually to put some vampire spawn, because there wouldn't be anything near the Remorhaz. Although it does say the no vampire will attack during the Remorhaz fight, which is real fucked up. We'll have to play that one very carefully. I don't know if we'll actually launch the whole Remorhaz fight. Maybe if the players get through these first 2 rooms quickly and then go down the slide and like we immediately jump into it, then maybe, but we'd probably have to stop the session during the fight. But more than likely, it'd probably end up before that fight actually started. I'm not really prepping beyond the Remorhaz room if they go down there, because I think that would be, that's like a session-long fight, I'm pretty sure. But crazy enough, the No Vampire is actually scripted to fight during that fight. It like hides out in the mist, which is, I mean, this is already a pretty tough fight. He's technically over in H23, which is the right cavern, I guess. Lily is here. The No Vampire is in mist form, hiding in the steam. The characters can sense a vampire only if they have magic that can detect the presence of undead. As the young Remorhazes engage the characters in battle, Tekalele assumes its null form and joins the fray, keeping its distance from the Remorhazes. That's pretty crazy. Whereas I think the Shadow fight, he technically comes in like afterwards. But it is weird that he attacks without his minions. We should be launching the minions more often. Otherwise, we don't have any sightings for a while. So assuming they just scout or don't go that way and they go up here, they'll see weirdly some natural stairs leading up to H7. H7 is just an empty room, but it's got the other side of the tower. H8 has the ability, if they, it's a cool like exploration scene where they can read some words that are for some reason written in Draconic and not Laros. I don't know why that's the case. Because I thought that was all their language, was that Laros language, that ancient language, but it specifically says Netherese use the Draconic script. And it says, take the free self-guided tour of Ithrin, press the I to cast the spell, and they can kind of roll. Actually, I guess I was going to include the fact they could roll an Arcana check to try to figure out that this thing is just a magical effect that will start if you press this button. The button allows them to basically cast Arcane Eye, but I'm going to modify that, as has been suggested before in previous crafting streams, that this is not a typical Arcane Eye spell that lasts for an hour and lets them just literally scout around the entire flanking dungeon, because there's no walls that would stop it from doing that. Instead, I'll probably let it last the duration, but give it a radius that it can go away from this thing, because it's clearly damaged. Like it's meant to be an Ithrin, it was broken off of somewhere, and it's only partially functioning, and in fact only has one use of its spell left. I do have a cute little eyeball here that I did give vision to. I'll just have to remember to give that control to a whoever presses the button, and it would be kind of the same effect as if you went to your eyes into a familiar or something, your body goes slack. You can kind of see what it looks like here as it creeps through. It's got a 30-foot range of vision and dark vision and all that good stuff. So I like it. I mean, it just gives the opportunity to the players to scout, and maybe they'll use that to scout down here, use it to scout down the tunnel. It's just a kind of a straight up bonus, but it will have a pretty strict radius. I'm thinking about restricting it to about 100 feet from this point, which would give them as far as the Room of Shadows. It allows them to scout out basically just 2 rooms ahead down here, and then it really only lets them go like just barely down this tunnel. Basically, they can just kind of see that this tunnel continues to extend, for another 60 feet before it like curves down around again. So they'll just be able to see maybe the length of the tunnel if they haven't gone down there already. So I think 100 feet seems pretty fair. Maybe once they reach that end, it starts like sputtering and the magic starts fading and they start losing vision, and make it kind of a dramatic thing where it's like the fog of war starts hitting you or something. So that'll be a bonus, but I'm going to limit it greatly so they can't just go through all these multiple rooms. Instead, they'll only be able to see like a couple rooms ahead. And I think from this point of view, they'll still be able to see like beyond, won't they? If they make it to like, I literally let them make it to the middle of this room before it starts sputtering. I guess they get to see that this room continues on in like multiple directions. I am going to play up this room, H11, as not having these actual creatures on the map, and instead almost treating it like another psychic haunting with just kind of shadows flittering on the walls, despite it being very, you know, dark. Just kind of teasing the fact that this room is has some nasty shadow creatures in there, which he can. Let's see, ambush. He actually ambushes them H12, which is up here. Attacks characters once the shadows are dealt with. So I guess the shadows aren't aligned to him either, so doesn't want to do that. But that could be an interesting ambush. Maybe just after they get to the fight and they're pretty fucked up, you can have the vampire attack them somewhere around here. But it's a pretty scary fight because there's 12 shadows here. Shadows are not very strong at all, but they do have their strength drain ability, which is nasty. Yeah. It's a really surprisingly... I picture them as those creatures from the Harry Potter that have that really cool, creepy effect where they like suck your like essence out. Dementor, I think, was that it? What it's called? They reduce strength by 1d4. The target dies if this reduces its strength to 0. Otherwise, it only lasts until a short rest. But I mean, it can auto kill you if you're not having a great strength and you have all these shadows attacking you. It can be really nasty. In fact, I can actually set up this where I believe it will roll it just like that. Let's test that. It's not set to show it though. I would hope. Or yes, it is. Oh, I guess that's to roll the attack first. There it goes. So now it'll roll the damage, and then the target strength score is reduced by that much. Target dies if it's reduced strength to 0. Yep. Obviously, they're probably not going to kill somebody like Frey or something, but if anybody has a strength of like 8 or something, that starts getting real dangerous. Probably looking at Edmund and Volraven as having the lowest strength, I would assume. Well, I think Edmund really... well, no, he's got an 11. Eleven is pretty dangerous. What's Volraven got? Volraven's got a 9. Yeah, so there's going to be their best chances. I assume Thimbleweed and Celeste should probably have average strength, and Frey obviously has like 20-something because she's got the Belt of Frost. Actually, Thimbleweed's only a 12. Oh boy. And Celeste is a 12. All right. So, funny enough, not the height. We got one person with insane strength. I believe Frey's at 23. Everybody else is between 9 and 12. So that could be a very scary thing because I'm just going to do random token fate. Try to ambush the players if I can get away with it. I don't think... Do shadows normally have a stealth stat? They do not, but they do have Shadow Stealth. While in Dim Light or Darkness, Shadow can take the Hide action as a bonus action. Its Stealth bonus is improved to +6. I don't think it even has a basic Stealth bonus unless Roll20 is not showing it correctly. I mean, their basic would be a +2 because of their dex. So effectively, they would have a DC 16 if we take that average for general stealth. I mean, we could roll that to see if they can get better, or just assume it's a 6. So in other words, a passive perception of 16. Actually, I guess it would take a 17. Is that how it works with passive? Because you need the roll to be higher. Well, if it was their passive against this stealth, then a 16 would alert the player. Who's got the best? I think Frey might have it. She took something. 14. Well, Robin usually has good perception. Versus characters who have good perception. 18. But I like to limit passive perception to being a pretty close radius to the player. And because it's 30 feet high and they can all be flittering around the room, he would probably be in the room. He just wouldn't be surprised. Oh, yeah, actually, pretty low perception party. I just leave it up to token fate to determine, to an extent, I guess. Oh, 17 for Edmund. So unless they're specifically making perception checks, Edmund and Valravn will not be surprised, and then Frey would most likely want to rage to not be surprised. I'll write down that it's effectively a 16 stealth, which default Frey and Edmund are not surprised. Now they could be making active perception checks or doing other things. Basically, it's turning on light, I guess. I guess that's part of the problem is they would have some kind of light source most likely. I think Edmund just carries a magic light. Is that right? Dim light or darkness. Yeah, and the light spell goes 30 feet. So actually, probably once they reach the room, the shadows, some of the shadows would be revealed. We'll have to remember that about the light spell. I'd like to ambush them because that would be the truly devastating, scary thing to do. But if they are being cautious with perception and light, then it might be a little harder to pull that off because these things aren't going to last but a single round. And especially one good AoE blast will destroy them. They only have average of 16 hit points. They're actually vulnerable to radiant damage too, which I believe is what Celeste does. So now that she's got all those AoEs that she can do is primed to be destroying these things. So I don't see them attacking, but basically that one round, which is why that ambush round could be huge. Although individually running initiative helps me a lot because odds are at least some of them will be able to go before the players can get something off. Plus AC 21. I don't know. That does sound high. It is not. It is a 17. 21, I believe, is Thimbleweed. It has a 21. And that is because he's got his Carapace plus armor plus a magic shield, I believe. I don't think there's anything preventing Rime from wearing armor, but they just get a basic +1 armor, I believe. And then he does have a shield that a magic shield that gave him a bunch of AC as well. This has been a very low AC party. This is actually a rare one where he finally has gotten steadily more and more AC as we go. But considering our two front lines have been Monk and Barbarian, it's been a pretty low AC party overall. Now we skipped over one area that I'm still trying to piece together, which is H9. This is the... And by the way, I'm trying to go as far as basically we get to the next common encounter because that's what's going to take the most amount of time. So, if they skip the Rim Risers completely, they go up here, and then they eventually make it to H11, then we'll do the big shadow fight, and then we'll probably, I would assume, end it around there if we do get through this fight, which I could see this one maybe pulling the trigger on versus the Rim Rise one because this one won't be nearly as long. That means we do have to plan for H9, which is the head, and this is a case where I definitely want to change this up. The original one, it's a cool idea, but I think we need to do more with it. It's the Iron Golem head, and there is a headless Iron Golem somewhere in Ithrin. I don't know why the artist decided to make such a hilarious looking head on the map when that is clearly not what the actual artist fiction looks quite like, which is this. It's more like a helmeted head. This looks like a man. I like that handout. I need to make sure I write that down for showing the handout. So handout, heads roll. It's easy to forget about those handouts when running the game in Roll20. As written, this thing is just a social encounter. Sort of. They can figure out that it's the head of an Iron Golem. It understands Elvish and Laros. And they can ask it questions, and for some reason it would talk to them with its eyes blinking yes or no. I don't know why, because the headless Iron Golem is completely hostile to the players. And I couldn't find any information about what these Iron Golems' purpose is in Ithrin, but I assume they're kind of like a defensive system. Security or something. So I can't imagine why this one would be just chatty. So I'm thinking I'll use it maybe as partially a social encounter, but I definitely want to have its Poison Breath capability available, which is a nasty effect. Iron Golem. Iron Golems are pretty scary, even for tier 3. Oh shoot, that's the headless Iron Golem. And in here again. I need just the head Iron Golem. DR16. If we just look at its poison breath, the 15-foot cone with a DC 19 con save, taking 10d8 poison damage. Be awesome. So maybe it's when the players approach. It does, doesn't it? Actually, from Easter Island. It's just weird because I mean, it's cool that it's on there. It's on the map art itself, so we don't have to come up with something. But it's just weird how different it is from the artist rendition that they ended up doing. When they come across it, you know, it's probably facing this way, and I think given the, I have that art back up. I think it was lying on its side, right? Yeah, so you could actually turn away from it if you want. But I'm gonna definitely make it so its mouth can open and speak. But it would speak in that ancient language. Well, it does say it can speak Elvish, which is interesting. Maybe it would repeat in Elvish after it does the Ross language. But basically turn into like a surprise security thing, like halt. I don't know, say something that a security patrol would say. I mean, I don't think Etherin's like a fascist police state or anything where it'd be like, you know, show me your papers or something like that. But maybe it has, you know, a registry of everybody, and you know, and obviously these folks are unknown, so it would, you know, say something like unknown individual detected, and then maybe demand it answer some questions or ask some questions of it, and then maybe it says that an initial part in Laros, and then it'll say, and the idea is, you know, you want to have it talk for a little bit, some more players kind of come up and they get in the potential cone that's going to come out. And depending on what they say or do, and I really want to kind of play around with this as a role-playing standpoint, essentially if they fail or don't present themselves appropriately, then it would just open its mouth and blast them with its poison spray, and the idea being to, you know, it's a weird thing. I guess they would just kill them, I guess. Does it just kill people? I guess so, if it can. Now the players can avoid this obviously by just going. The thing can't move, so it's a very interesting. It's like a social trap essentially, because it can't move. It can recharge, and you know, maybe it's blasted some folks before. Maybe the kobolds and creatures just run around it before it can respond appropriately, because it sits there and goes through its protocol of trying to make sure who it's talking to is an enemy before it blasts them. But so I think I'm just going to play around with it as a social encounter. Technically, it could have some answers. The players play it really well. It could maybe answer a few things. But I like the idea that it's actually got a mouth and can speak. If the players, nobody knows Laros, but obviously Morami knows Elvish, and maybe some other folks do. But if they say the wrong things, I am not above letting it unleash its poison breath attack. And if they ask, like, hey, where's your body at? And you'd be like, body, maybe you can sense the fact that its body's operational, but not nearby. that would be kind of a cool tease somehow. Don't think it's, yeah, it mentions you don't know where Etherin is. I could be pretty damn far from it from this standpoint. So yeah, but it's definitely possible for players to not get hit by it. The cone will be pretty strict. It'll be basically anybody who's kind of in this general area will get blasted by it, and then they could attack the damn thing and try to destroy it, I guess, which is weird because, like, why wouldn't the kobolds have destroyed it then, because they're constantly having to go back and forth. Maybe they like it as a... Maybe they just don't bother with it, or they're kind of afraid of it. Seems like it's kind of a main thoroughfare for them to run through also. Maybe they can stick to the ceiling and not get detected by it. I don't know. A little bit of a plot hole for me, but whatever. I guess I could allow the players to just attack it normally, but it's almost trivial because they could, again, get around it and just start bashing it until it would basically be destroyed. So I don't think I would actually put them in combat at that point. Just let it say things like, warning, system malfunctioning or something. And then H11, the Cave of Shadows. We kind of covered that. It's got some creepy shadows in there. I'm going to try to ambush the party if I can. I guess we could talk a little bit about beyond this room, because again, I don't see us having to plan much beyond the Remoraz room, because that fight will take up everything. The only thing that's going to fuck me up is if they decide to go in the Remoraz room, and then maybe they decide to even go in like greater invisibility or something and keep scouting beyond it, in which case I'll have to kind of scramble to... Boy, that'd be actually a really good tactic. They haven't done that, have they? Just turn somebody like greater invisibility and greater invisibility lasts for a minute. I don't know if they actually have normal visibility. That's actually less useful as a scout. I was thinking they haven't really taken advantage of just trying to scout around an area too, even with like just superior stealth or something. But the Remorazes have tremor sense, so invisibility actually doesn't help you unless you are hovering or flying through the air or something. Maybe even climbing on the walls, but if you're on the ground at all, I believe they feel it. They actually can detect you even if you're invisible, so that is an advantage for me. But if we go on the right side, we're not dealing with the Remorazes quite yet. You can go down 3 different paths from the Cave of Shadows room. H12 has a unique curse where you see basically the skeletons of the shadows. Whole story of like just survivors of Etherid Crash who died, realized themselves. Should tie this to Frey somehow, but I don't know how. Vampire's also in H11. You could do the Mist and Shadows. Oh yeah, that's true. The vampire would be hanging around here for sure. You do that darkness mist thing, because the dark mist would cancel out. I believe darkness beats light. Let's see. But does daylight beat darkness? Any of this spell's area overlaps an area of light created by a spell of 2nd level or lower. The spell that created the light is a spell, so it does take over light spells. I'm really liking this idea, Michael, of darkness spewing out of the vampire. That's actually going to help me a lot, I think. Just as an effect that it's got. Or I guess it'd be, well, layer action. Sort of once we're in like formal combat, but... but Reese has the daylight spell. And this one immediately beats that one. Okay, so this is kind of a flow chart to have. If any of this spell's area overlaps with an area of darkness created by a spell of that spell that created the darkness is dispelled. Okay, so daylight would definitely fuck up the vampire very well, and that would cause the vampire to retreat as quickly as possible while taking damage. Which is fine. I think it's a cool way that character can show off that ability. So in H12, there's frozen skeletons, and weirdly, it's not a psychic haunting. It's a unique curse that happens if you enter this room. DC 15 con save or gain 1 level of exhaustion if your hunger isn't satisfied within a minute. But we don't really play like we have rations or anything, so I don't see why you couldn't just eat that. So what I'd probably do is just turn this into another psychic haunting, if we're being honest. I'll script one that makes sense for this room, but I'll have everybody make that wisdom save. I gotta sneeze. Just when I thought I was done, they pull me back in. It doesn't help that it's like 70s right now in Texas after we had like freezing weather last week, so it's just wreaking havoc on allergies. Ugh. But yeah, I think that'll be a good opportunity for a psychic haunting because we haven't had one in a while. We do one in H10. We'll do one in H12. Kind of tied to this room where maybe people feasting on each other or something. You know what I could do? Is just make Frey turn into a Wendigo here. That's something I haven't done with at all this entire campaign. Maybe let her make the save, and instead of her being affected by the events, like a disadvantage, then she goes Wendigo. And the players have to deal with that. The players have so far been able to, unfortunately, deal with the Wendigo very easily the few times that she's transformed. And the few times she's transformed have been in combat encounters where it would seem like it would be devastating for the players. And this would be a case where she may actually be alone. Although the vampire could choose to attack them during this event versus near the shadows. 12 call, Curse of Hunger. But I mean, come on, it's supposed to be like the idea is I believe they cannibalized each other. Shadows are born from those who survived Ethan's crash only to face starvation, driven mad by trauma and hunger. The group of survivors resorted to cannibalism. The victims rose as shadows to take vengeance upon the last surviving member of the group, and their hatred extends to all other living creatures as well, which I think the last surviving member is this wraith down here. I actually like that idea, to turn into a character we might still let Frey roll a wisdom save, maybe a disadvantage or something with a pretty high save, so it gives her a chance to try and survive the trauma. Still do maybe a psychic haunting for everybody to where they have to make the saves, but for her, it's a disadvantage and she could transform into Wendigo. I like that idea a lot. That could be a good opportunity for that. H13, I think, is just a middle room, right? With another 3 branching paths from it. 10-foot high ceiling covered with icicles that nearly touch the form, forming thin stalactites. That's actually pretty cool. Leaving paths lead to the cave's 4 exits. It's almost like a room full of like pillars. I should try to do that in dynamic lighting then. I should make little pillars everywhere. That would actually look really neat, I think, in Roll20. Let's try and do that. Just make little circles. That work? Copy and paste and throw a bunch of them everywhere. Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. Hope this is gonna work. Yeah, it could really affect Frey a lot more. Maybe the shadows even like target Frey more, although that's not good for me because they do the strength drain. Although that would certainly piss her off, but in terms of being deadly, it don't matter much. Alright, let's see if the effect worked as I wanted it to. We'll grab 1. Okay. Boy, this poor map is so big. I gotta be careful about it lagging. Although, honestly, Roll20 has been really great so far. From problems we've had in Tomb, and then from early in this campaign, I really haven't had much. Or in Tomb and early in this campaign, I haven't had much problems in this campaign in a while. Alright, that looks pretty. Despite it being empty. But you do hear sounds. So this would, you'd hear like the cackling and the yelling. The acoustic cave, the curtains within 5 feet of the east tunnel. Discern the barking yipping is coming from that direction. still going to want to roll perception checks. Also, nothing stopping them from seeing down into this cave. Rough-hewn staircase leading out to Area 17. A similar staircase in the south tunnel leads to Area 16. Well, I need to put these guys not on the map then. Because the players can just look down here and fucking see them. That's not a big deal. This is where they can fight a bunch of vampire spawns. For some reason, without the vampire. It's weird that they separate them. I would probably have the vampire here as well. Turn this to a fight, but then the vampire can always retreat. 14 has ice sculptures. Vampire star. Spawn have made startle and frighten intruders. I like the idea that some of them could be drow vampire spawn. There's no... Okay, so there's another empty room up here in 14. Which is fine. We don't have to have every room have something in it. We're just going to be cave openings. But these spawn aren't alerted to the players at all? They under 17? Let's see. Sharp senses. The creatures have sharp senses and know when the living creatures are nearby. Okay, what is nearby? They use their spider climb trait to cling to the walls and pounce on the first character into the lair. And they retreat to 19 to make their final stand, which is where the Vampire Lord is, I assume. But then why wouldn't he just attack with his minions? And 18's got snow golems. I think I'm just going to block this off. It's just too much. We don't need to fight a bunch of random ass snow golems for no reason. I think I'm just going to literally block off this cave and not fucking worry about it. Not gonna look great on the map because you'll be able to clearly see it's kind of open right there. Yep, that's fine. Blocked. I'm not gonna do H18 at all. We have time to figure that out in the future, how to best do the vampire stuff, and then the Wraith down here represents kind of another mini boss fight, possibly. Although I think that could also be a potential social encounter. We can even delve into phrase cannibalism some more. I don't know. Make Frey hear whispers that get louder the closer they get to the location and give her escalating difficulty saves versus the... Oh, okay. Each failed save be a modifier to her Wendigo change. Well, the problem is that she usually chooses when she has a chance to change into Wendigo form, so this would be forcing her into a change, which is not something I've done before yet. But if ever there was an opportunity to do that, it would be here for sure. The weird thing is, all this prep work could mean nothing if the players end up going down that slide and dealing with the Remorazes and then just never coming up here. But they could always come up here again, too. I mean, the way it's done, like, they could always head up to the upper right from H23 and then explore the caves from this direction, so who the fuck knows, but... I'm kind of hoping they go to the upper right, because I think there's some good content up here. And obviously I'm hoping they do fight that Remoraz fight at some point, but... we will see. It's not necessarily up to me where they go. I can certainly try and draw their attention to certain places and things, but I'm also interested in seeing how they tackle this dungeon, and we're going to find out tomorrow, because that is going to do it for this Thursday edition of Crafting Icewind Dale. Thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please do check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, William, Brandon, Genocider, David, Eclectic, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Brian, William, David, Corey, Koa1337, Kyle, Matthew, Big Nut, Greenlee, John, and Infernus, and Gold patrons RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcus, Dead, Lizard, Lounge, Sam, Olympus Buds, Jerome, Nathan, Fastica, Tortoise, Scott, Stephanie, Refus, and Carolyn. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you all for D&D tomorrow night.